What's going on, guys? It is Bit by Bit here. Today we are going to be doing our first episode of the Console Wars. Today we are doing the Atari 2600 versus the Intellevision, just to show you a picture of each. This is the 4-switch Atari VCS, which was later changed to 2600. This is the Intellevision, which in my opinion is a far superior console, and my personal favorite, although I will not be taking any favorites in this matchup. Let's start off with the controllers. The controllers you see for the Intellevision have this directional disc, which might look a little flimsy at first, but believe me, it's cool. It goes 16 directions, compared to Atari's 8-way directional joystick. And must I say, the directional disc is a lot easier to control than a stiff, hard joystick. The Intellevision also had a number pad, but in my opinion, this is not a bad thing. I mean, for example, the games came with overlays. If you put the overlays in, you can use the buttons for different sort of patterns. For example, it would tell you to use the direction down here and the action buttons on the side, and exactly how to play the game with you not even having to read the very long manual. The action buttons on the sides here are very, very nice to press and very, very soft to press, so you don't have to jam it in there like you sort of have to do with the Atari button. Oh, and I also do want to say that I have played both systems, both controllers. Now, the Atari controller just makes me really sad. Okay, maybe in the 70s you could get along with one button, but I mean, really, in the early 80s, could you have gotten along with one button? I know they had different types of controllers, but if you're mainly playing with this, I mean, come on. I can say I am very annoyed about how the actual controller on the Intellevision is connected to the Intellevision, which is something the Atari controller got right by not doing that. So, that's one for Atari. So who wins this round? Intellevision, with the far superior controller. Next, let's take a look at some games. Originally, the Intellevision had Las Vegas Poker and Blackjack that came with it, but eventually that was changed to Astro Smash. Astro Smash is sort of a mix between Space Invaders and Asteroids, and it's actually a really, really good one if you go and you play it. It's a lot more than I was expecting. The Atari VCS came packed in with Combat. Combat boasted 27 different styles of play, and is still very fun to play today. The only thing I can say about Combat is the noise isn't really very great, and it's kind of hard to control when you only have one button and a really stiff joystick. Of course, the packing game was later turned to Pac-Man, which Atari created way too many cartridges of, because they thought, hey, if everybody thinks they can play Pac-Man on Atari, then everybody will buy an Atari just so they can play Pac-Man. The game's not broken or anything, it's just so terrible to play with the blinking ghosts, and it's just so horrible. Intellevision's most highly sold game is World Championship Baseball. The game is the sports titles on Intellevision are so much better than the ones on Atari, because once again, you have more than one button to control it with. You have the whole number pad, which that means you can just, let's say the pitcher is like the number 5, you just press number 5 and it throws back to the pitcher. It's that easy. You don't need to be able to aim it with that annoying joystick like you did in the Atari version. Another one of Atari's system sellers was Space Invaders. Although it wasn't too similar to the arcade version, it's still pretty fun. Of course, graphically it wasn't great, but you know, it got the job done. I still would have rather played Astro Smash and Baseball, which is the more realistic version of the two, and it just feels a lot more fun. Just barely, Atari wins this round. Alright, let's look at the graphical capabilities of the machines. It may surprise you to know that the Intellivision is actually the very first 16-bit console, although it didn't produce 16-bit graphics. Its graphics were quite a bit better, though, than Atari's. Both basically had 4-bit graphics, though. Hey everyone in the channel, say hi to my sister. Hi. Hey. The Intellivision's color palette was also a lot bigger. Let's use the previous example to compare the two's graphics. Okay, this was this late 70s, early 80s. I'm gonna let you pass, Atari. Doesn't even look like a baseball diamond though. However, this is the early 80s and this is Intellivision. Just look at this. Alright, okay, the players are not that well. It's early 80s, what do you expect? But I mean, you got the baseball diamond, which is not that bad, and you got all 9 players in the field now, and it actually looked just like bases. So this round goes to the Intellivision. Alright, let's read off some statistics here. The Intellivision sold 3 million copies compared to the 2630 million copies. But not to worry. If you want to play 2600 games on your Intellivision, it's this easy. Get the Atari converter for your Intellivision. That's right, the Intellivision had an add-on where you could play Atari games. The Intellivision also had the IntelliVoice, which doesn't sound like a lot now, but voice synthesis back then was huge. If you had a game that could talk, then you had a game that could make you not be able to have friends and still have someone to talk to. The sentence just sounded really weird. The Atari, on the other hand, had a trackball module, which you could use for games like Missile Command and Centipede and anything you do like that with the arcade. I'm sorry, Atari. A trackball cannot outdo voice in the early 80s, and something that can play your own video games. Intellivision wins this round. Now, let's look at the legacy. The Atari 2600 is remembered as one of the greatest video game systems of all time, although it is not the first, for a lot of people who think that out there. IGN rated it the second greatest video game system of all time. It is the first system to let you play video games that were in the arcade on your house. The Intellivision is rated by IGN as the number 14th best console of all time, and was also the first console to have internet play. Now, of course, since it didn't have anything to save on, as soon as you turned your Intellivision off, you lost that game. The Intellivision also had a 10-year lifespan and survived the video game market crash, although Mattel sold it to NTV Products, which we know gave us some good titles today. This final round goes to Atari, which lost just barely by 2-3 to the Intellivision. I will admit, though, the Atari is a heck of a lot of fun to play, especially when you have a friend. In fact, an Atari game made my top 10 video games list of all time. Why don't you guys go check that one out? I hope you enjoyed this first episode of Console Wars, and I'll see you guys next time.